Hey guys, it's Charlie, and we're back with Nancy Drew and the Clue Crew, Sleepover Sleuths. We're reading Chapter 5, and it's called Clue Times 2. Let's start reading. Our first clue, Bess exclaimed. How cool is that? Let's take some evidence, Nancy said. Evidence? Bess said. What's that? Bess said. That's a fancy word for proof, Nancy explained. My dad explained it to me once when we were watching a mystery movie together. Nancy tried to pick up the fuzz, but the wisps kept slipping from her fingers. Wait here, Bess said as she hopped off the bench. When she came back, her hand was wrapped with sticky tape. What's that? George asked. A clue mitt, Bess said. I built it myself. Bess ran her sticky mitt over the windowsill. Clumps of fuzz stuck to the tape. Thanks, Bess, Nancy exclaimed. The girls jumped off the bench. Bess pulled the sticky mitt off her hand. She dropped it into an empty goodie bag she found on the table. Let's see what else we can find, Nancy said. The girls moved the bench. They got down on their hands and knees and searched the cream-colored carpet. Nancy saw something orange on the floor. She picked it up and rolled it in her hand. It looks like a button, Nancy said. It might be a clue. Two clues, Bess squealed. We're on a roll. Now we have to figure out who would have taken Hollywood Heather, Nancy said as she dropped the button into her bag. You mean suspects? George asked. How did you know? Bess asked. Nancy isn't the only one who likes mysteries, George said with a grin. Nancy looked at the clock. It was almost time for Hannah to pick them up. Let's work on the case in my room, Nancy suggested. We can keep the clues in my desk drawer, and we can use the computer to write down everything we find out. Did you say computer? George said. She gave a thumbs-up sign. I'm there. Bess and George called home for permission to go to Nancy's house. Then Hannah picked the girls up and drove them 5 blocks to the Drew home.
Will you restart it?
I'll just edit it out. Is Maddie at her house?
Write something down. Start writing.
When did you start doing this?
A few minutes before you got here.
You can start over. It's just a page.
Where'd you get a boot?
Nancy, Bess, and George all had the same rules. They had permission to walk up 5 blocks as long as they were together. But with all their heavy sleepover gear, 5 blocks was too far to walk. As soon as they reached the Drew house, the girls ran straight up to Nancy's room. Nancy carefully placed the clue bag in her top desk drawer. Then she turned on her computer. George sat down at the keyboard. She opened a new file and called it, Who Took Hollywood Heather? What do we know so far? Nancy asked. George said. The doll was on the windowsill at 6:45 this morning when I came back from the bathroom. Deidre woke me up at 8, Nancy remembered. So Hollywood Heather must have disappeared between about 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Type that in, George, Bess said. I'm typing, George said as her fingers flew across the keyboard. What about suspects? Nancy asked. We have one already, Bess said. Cassidy Rubin. Right, Nancy said. Cassidy could have stuffed the doll in her backpack. Maybe that's why she wouldn't let go of it. Cassidy was also mad at Deidre for not letting her have the last piece of birthday cake, George said. Maybe she took Hollywood Heather to get even. That's it. Case closed, Bess declared. Cassidy took the doll. We don't know for sure, Bess, Nancy said, shaking her head. So far, she's just a suspect. George looked up the word suspect on the computer's spell check. She typed it in on the page, with Cassidy's name underneath. Who else could have taken Hollywood Heather? Nancy said. Bess sat on Nancy's bed. She bounced a stuffed tiger on her lap. Maybe Deidre was right about Trina, she said. Trina was mad at her, and she was the only one who could reach the windowsill. Anyone could have climbed on something, though, George said, just like we did. Nancy didn't want to blame Trina, but then she remembered something else. Trina's sleeping bag was empty when the doll went missing, Nancy said. Maybe she did go upstairs to hide the doll in her bag. George added Trina's name to the suspects list. Do you think Trina's doll was a fake, like Deidre said? Bess asked. Let's check out the City Girls website, George said. They have pictures of all the dolls. Maybe there's a picture of Indianapolis Ivy. George saved their case file before going online. She was about to search for the City Girls site when she heard a little jingling noise. You got an instant message, Nancy, George said. Nancy leaned over to read her message. It's from Pickles99, she said. Pickles? Who's that? Bess said. Brienne Sloxy from our school, Nancy explained. She puts pickles on all her sandwiches. Even peanut butter? Bess gasped. Why wasn't Brienne at the sleepover? George asked. Doesn't she have a City Girls doll? Not yet, Nancy said, but that's all she ever thinks about. Nancy read the message out loud. Nadine called me. She said she has a new Hollywood Heather doll. Is it true? All three girls stared at the message. You guys, Nancy said slowly, did she just say Nadine has Hollywood Heather? Okay guys, that's it. Chapter 6 is called Hide and Peek. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and click the bell. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!